Let's talk about how you can win more tennis matches by better managing your emotions. Your emotions have such a powerful impact on the decisions you make and the way you respond or react to the situations, the adversity, the challenges, the points during a match. And so when we start to better manage our emotions, we start to better manage the decisions we make during a match, and we start to see our results improve. And so if your emotions have ever gotten the best of you during a match, this video is definitely for you. So let's get right into it. My name is Dr. Jay Kavanaugh. I'm a high performance mindset coach for tennis athletes. You can find more information at rack-tennis.com. So one of the emotions that many of us kind of struggle with during a match is anxiety, right? It's stress and anxiety. And typically when we're dealing with this emotion, what we're trying to do is either predict the future or we have some sort of expectation based on pressure, which by the way is just an imagined scene in our mind as to what should happen, what we expect to happen, what must happen, okay? Most of us aren't playing with our lives at stake. Most of us aren't playing for millions of dollars, okay? And even if you are, there's still ways to better manage the expectations and pressure you have on yourself. But here's the thing. If you're playing for fun, or you're maybe even a mid-level or even a pro, better manage your expectations on things. Don't forget what expectations are. Expectations are basically you trying to predict the future. Our brains are designed to be very fuel efficient, very energy efficient. And one of the ways that we developed a strategy to do that 100,000 years ago when energy wasn't so easy to come by. Don't forget, energy is food. Food wasn't as easy as, hey Grubhub, listen, can you or can you bring me in some food in the next 30 minutes? I'm starving. It wasn't that easy 100 years ago. You had to go find food, kill it, then cook it, eat it, consume it, share it with the others in your tribe. So energy was a very valuable resource. So one of the things that we had to do is develop this very powerful desire to predict the next move that we make and the next outcome we might experience, because if we made the wrong move, that wrong move could end up in death of ourselves or even the entire tribe. And so when we talk about predicting the future, realize that this is a little bit of a lizard brain type action going on. So what do we do with this knowledge? Well, instead of predicting the future or trying to anticipate what it'll be, realize that the power you have is to create the future. If I don't know what the next minute of my life has in store for me and I start to feel anxious about it, all I need to do is stop for a moment and say, what am I going to make happen? Am I going to get up and go cook some breakfast? Am I going to go get up and edit this video for YouTube? What am I going to do next? Instead of worrying and trying to anticipate and have an expectation about the future, create it. Create it. In the moment is where you have all the power. You have the power to create in the moment. And the moment right now is all you have. You cannot predict the future, okay? So don't waste your time and valuable energy trying to do it, because all it does is create feelings of stress and anxiety, especially when you have these high expectations that if you start to feel are not being met and you feel like you're oscillating below where they are and your perception is below those expectations, your emotional response, low vibe, low energy, frustration, disappointment, no bueno, not good. So expectations come at a risk. And that risk is coming short of them has negative consequences, meaning negative emotions that you will associate with coming up short of that expectation. So we also talk about stress and anxiety. Stress and anxiety is related to expectations, related to predicting the future, and us trying to determine what should happen or imagine what might happen. Now, let me be very clear on something. I'm not saying that I don't want you to have a strategy, have a plan, imagine what you would like to have happen, okay? That is a very powerful strategy. In another video, we'll talk about the power of your imagination. It's absolutely powerful, and we know this. However, there's a difference between imagining what you want to do or having an intention as to what you want to do in the next point. So for example, if I'm about to serve, I don't just serve and try to get it over the net. Because if that's my focus, it's very general, it's not too specific, and it's kind of weak, to be honest with you. I oftentimes will go one step beyond that and say, okay, this is where I intend for this ball to go. Now, that's not an expectation, that's an intention. The difference is this is what I am working on having happen in this moment. An expectation is typically something a little further into the future that you hope will happen. And oftentimes you're hoping in a emotional state of disconnect and lack and separation, when an intention is more, or can be, if you manage it properly. An intention, if set properly, can be motivational. It can be a great power, a great way to focus your energy and attention on the right things. It's like, hey, what am I going to do right now? What I'm going to do right now is hit that ball about 6 inches to the left of that inside line, and that's my intention. Boom, that's different. That's powerful. That's great. Use it. Do that. But when you start to have these expectations or stress or anxiety, no bueno. And what will happen is, don't forget, when you have a certain emotional state, let's say it's stress. Stress breeds more stress. Anxiety breeds more anxiety. Those feelings breed thoughts that are in alignment with those feelings, and then those thoughts breed more of the same feelings. It's a circle, like a little loop, right? And you can kind of get caught up in that, almost like a vortex, right? Because you all of a sudden feel anxious and you say, oh my God. Then what do you start to think? What's the narrative? Oh my God, I hope I win this match. Oh my God, what should I do? Wait, if I lose this match, what's gonna happen to my career? Or if I lose this next point or set, what's gonna happen the next set? What do I need to do the next set? These are the types of conversations people have during a tennis match, and I'm sure you have considered them as well. And so the whole thing is, it's normal to do that, but this is your opportunity to change the game, change the way that you speak to yourself during a match, because tennis is very much a mental sport, as are most sports, especially when it's, yes, doubles, you've got 2 players, you can call that a team sport, but for the most part, a lot of us are playing singles, right? And so when you're playing singles, you're on your own. It's you against yourself, really, more so than as the opponent, right? Because we all think that we're fighting against or playing against this other opponent. Really, before you're playing against the opponent, you're really playing against yourself. And even Serena Williams, I believe it was, said that, the match is won before you even get on the court, right? And that supports the intensity and the importance of the mental game and mastering your mind, right? And mastering your emotions as well. And so a couple other things, and then we'll wrap up the video. So a couple things that you can do to better manage your emotions. So one, what's the meaning that you place on the points that you win or the points that you lose, right? If you place an importance on things, then let's say, for example, you're like, oh my God, I can't believe I missed that point. Okay, you're placing too high of an importance on that point. Now you might say, oh my God, it was important. All points are important. Every breath you take is important. If you want to really worry about something, worry about taking the next breath, okay? Because that's important. You want to know what's important? You breathing your next breath. But honestly, if you think that your next point is all that important, all you're doing is you're appraising, you're putting a value and significance on a point that is disproportional to the importance that it really has. And then what happens is, when you do that, you have, if the point doesn't go in the direction you want, you have a corresponding degree of emotional reaction to it. So what do I mean by that? Let's say you say in your mind, oh my God, this point is so important. This is it. This is it. If I don't get this point, I literally lose this match. Okay, so you've raised the importance. Now all of a sudden what happens? You blow the point. They ace you on the serve. Match, set, game, whatever. It's done, over, time to go home. Have a nice day, okay? What's your emotional reaction most likely gonna be? It's gonna be an equal amount of an intense, poor, negative, not so well of a feeling, emotion associated with it. Now, if you look at each point and say, hey, all points are important, all breaths are important, all people are important, everything's important, and everything at the same time is not, because it's the truth. Like, I used to think how important I was, and then I'm like, dude, you're really not that important. And people would be like, oh, wow, you shouldn't say that about yourself. When you start to realize how the human mind works, you realize that when you decrease your significance and you decrease it in the right way, in a healthy way, and we won't go into it any more than this, when you don't value, I don't want to go there. I'm not going to go there. Strike it, edit. Anyways, let's get back to it. So when you take these emotions, right, and you start to manage them better, right? So for example, let's say just response versus reaction. If I react, that is a default reaction to something that happens. Once again, we go into this loss of the point, right? I lose the point. What does that mean? My default reaction to that will also have a default emotional response to it. And so if I have a point that doesn't go well and my default reaction is, oh my God, and I beat myself up, every single time I lose a point, I will have that default emotional response. It's like a trigger, and then it's a behavioral response. It's basically a habit. It's a way of habitually responding to losing a point. And that comes with an emotional consequence. And so you need to start looking at, how do you respond to the adversity and challenges within a tennis match? How do you respond to losing a point? How do you respond to a double fault? How do you respond to not getting to a point that you feel you should have gotten to, or a ball you should have gotten to, right? How do you respond to that? So you want to write a list. Here's an action item for you. You want to write down a list of the things that happened to you in a recent match that, and then also, so it's on one side, what are the things that happened that maybe didn't go the way you wanted? But then also look for, that's the trigger, but then on the other side, look at the default response, the default reactions you have to it. This is where you want to look for the gold. This is where the opportunities lie, because all this is a habit. It's a pattern that you've developed over time. And we're going to go into other videos as to how you can develop better mental game habits to win more matches and to shift some of your habitual patterns and how you respond, your default responses to these triggers. So put it this way, there's a lot to talk about. I get supercharged on this topic because the way that you feel, don't forget, if you say, oh, I feel like this is my match, or geez, I just felt so good during this match. Think about it. The way that you evaluate a match is, yes, often based on the results, but honestly, prior to that, it's how do you feel? Do you feel like you're in the zone? Do you feel like you're going to win? Do you feel comfortable? Do you feel strong? Do you feel charged? Do you feel alive? Do you feel present? Do you feel like this is your match to win? Feelings can be managed. And so better look at the way that where you focus your attention, how you respond versus react. Also think about the expectations you place on things. Think about your perspective on things, the meaning you place on a win or a loss. Mistakes and failure aren't bad. They're part of the process. All of us deal with it. How do you deal with it? Once again, my name is Dr. Jake Kavanaugh of Rack-, that's a little line in the middle, I'll put it down here somewhere, tennis.com. We do have some coaching opportunities available. We have group coaching and remote, that's a new word, remote one-on-one coaching as well. So certainly check it out. And if you want to look at some other videos we've got, you might like one of these two as well. And thank you so much for your time. And put these tips into action, by the way.